Cancel her wedding booking now, my mom told the manager, threatening contracts. He looked at me and whispered, "Is this happening?" I froze as my wedding was erased, phone ringing. My name is Daniela Mercer. I'm 37 years old, and I work as a freelance financial consultant in Chicago. I help small businesses fix their budgets, rebuild after debt, and sometimes even save their entire companies from collapse. Funny thing is, I've spent my whole adult life fixing other people's financial messes, while my own family treated me like I was the problem. I wasn't rich or glamorous. I didn't drive fancy cars or wear designer clothes. But I had something they never expected: discipline, patience, and a mind that never stopped calculating outcomes. My parents always preferred my younger sister, the one they always praised for being perfect, in every traditional way. Meanwhile, I was the practical one. The one they only called when something went wrong. When I got engaged, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would change. I was wrong. That wedding wasn't just mine. It became the battleground where my entire family decided to erase me all. I didn't realize then that the day meant to unite us would expose everything they had planned against me all. If you've ever been treated like your worth depends on someone else's approval, you're not alone. Subscribe and join this community where your story matters. Tell me in the comments if you've ever been underestimated by your own family. And don't forget to hit like if this already feels familiar. At my wedding venue meeting, my parents suddenly arrived uninvited, smiling like they belonged there more than I did. My mother leaned toward the manager and said calmly, "Cancel her date, or you lose our corporate partnership." I laughed nervously at first, thinking it was a joke, until I saw the manager's face change. My father added, "She's not who you think she is. We bring this venue more business than she ever will." The manager hesitated, looking between me and them, clearly confused and pressured. Then my sister chimed in softly, "It's just easier this way. She's always been difficult." That word hit me harder than anything, difficult, like my entire life could be erased with one label. The manager stepped back and quietly said, "I need to check the contract." My mother smiled like she had already won. Then the manager walked away and returned minutes later with security behind him. "We're going to pause your booking," he said, not even looking at me directly. The room went silent. I felt my chest tighten as I realized they were actually doing it. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, my father leaned in and said loudly, "She doesn't even deserve this wedding." A guest recording on their phone whispered, "This is insane." That's when my phone buzzed, unknown number calling again and again, like something was about to explode there. After the cancellation threat, the venue staff began treating me like I didn't exist. My mother told everyone, "She's emotional. Don't take her seriously." My sister quietly started rearranging guest seating like she was the bride. I said, "This is my wedding," but my voice got drowned out by their confidence. Later, I found out they had already told half the guests the event was postponed. At a family lunch, my father publicly said, "Daniela has always been unstable with money decisions." Everyone laughed like it was harmless. I stood up, but my uncle interrupted. "Let's not make a scene." That was betrayal number 2 being silenced in my own story. The third hit came when my sister tried on a dress I had picked, saying, "It looks better on me anyway." No one corrected her. No one stopped her. I began noticing something darker. They weren't just humiliating me. They were replacing me piece by piece. My emails were accidentally forwarded to my mother. My vendor calls were being helpfully handled by my sister. I started documenting everything quietly. And the more I watched, the more I realized they weren't acting randomly. It was planned. I felt myself shifting from heartbreak to focus. I stopped arguing and started listening. Because something inside me was beginning to form. A response they would never see coming. I realized I had spent years absorbing their control, but now I was finally starting to observe it like a pattern in a system. That shift changed everything. I stopped reacting emotionally and started writing everything down in detail. Every conversation, every email, every manipulation. They were all being recorded in my notes. I began seeing the structure behind it. It wasn't chaos. It was coordination. And that scared me more than anything. Because coordinated cruelty meant intention. I started preparing quietly for what I knew would come next. And I stopped trying to convince anyone. I just started watching. Every smile they gave me felt rehearsed. Every correction they made felt planned. And I knew the truth was coming to the surface. I just didn't know when. So I waited. And while I waited, I learned everything. The system they built was fragile. They just didn't know it yet. And I did. That realization changed how I moved through every room. I no longer argued. I observed. And I waited for the right moment. I stopped trying to fix their behavior and started focusing on evidence. Every message, every forwarded email, every quiet manipulation became part of a growing case file. And as I closed my laptop that night, I finally understood I wasn't being pushed out randomly. I was being targeted deliberately. What they didn't know was that I had already been building something of my own for years in silence. While they mocked my so-called boring finance job, I had created an anonymous financial advice platform. Thousands of small business owners followed it, trusting advice that saved their companies from collapse. My influence was invisible to my family, but powerful outside their world. And the wedding venue they were threatening was actually one of my consulting clients. I had access to their financial systems through my advisory role. Every invoice, every contract, every report. I never used that power, not once. But now I was saving everything. Every message, every threat, every manipulation. I started building a private case file labeled "When they finally pushed too far." The final piece came when I received a direct message from the venue owner asking, "Are they blackmailing you?" That's when I realized the situation had already slipped beyond my family's control. I replied only yes. And I have proof. My hands were shaking, but not from fear anymore. From certainty. Because I was the person holding every truth they tried to bury. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what they would say next, because I already had everything I needed to prove what had been happening behind closed doors, completely now. My ally came unexpectedly, an old family lawyer named Rachel Dunn who had once worked closely with my grandparents' estate. She reached out after noticing irregular changes in my wedding contracts. "Daniela, this doesn't look like family drama. It looks like pressure tactics," she told me calmly. Rachel had seen my parents' behavior for years, and was not surprised. She started collecting documentation with me quietly. Meanwhile, my family grew more arrogant, thinking the venue collapse meant they had won. My mother told relatives she couldn't handle her own wedding anyway. My sister began posting subtle hints online as if she was taking over my life. But Rachel warned me, "They're overplaying their hand, let them." Each day, the file got thicker: emails, contracts, recorded conversations. I stopped reacting emotionally and started preparing strategically. My parents planned a family announcement dinner, celebrating what they believed was my humiliation. They invited people who barely knew me but loved my parents' image. Rachel told me, "When they speak that night, don't interrupt, just let them finish." I didn't understand at first, but I trusted her. Because for the first time, I wasn't alone in this. And I wasn't losing, I was waiting. Sitting with Rachel changed everything for me. Because for the first time I saw a clear path forward instead of confusion. She explained how every document they touched left a trace, and how patience, not confrontation, would be the key to exposing what my family thought would stay hidden forever from them and everyone else. That night I realized I didn't need to fight them loudly. I only needed to let them continue showing who they really were, while I stayed silent, collected every detail, and prepared for the moment their confidence would turn into exposure. And Rachel assured me that moment was already coming, and I believed her completely. The final confrontation happened in Rachel's law office with my parents sitting confidently across the table. My father said, "We're here to make sure Daniela stops damaging the family name." My mother added, "We had to step in before she ruined her wedding completely." Rachel calmly placed a folder on the table. "Before we continue," she said, "I think you should review these documents." My sister looked confused. "What documents?" Rachel replied, "Financial interference, contract manipulation, and coercion of a commercial venue." The room went silent. My mother scoffed, "This is ridiculous." That's when I spoke for the first time firmly. "You tried to cancel my wedding using threats. You didn't realize the venue reports directly to my consulting network. My father froze. Rachel continued, and your financial records show a pattern of using business leverage for personal control. My sister whispered, what is this? I looked at her and said, this is what happens when you underestimate the person cleaning up your messes for years. The final blow came when Rachel slid an email forward, confirmation from the venue owner. We've already reported this, it said. My parents realized too late. They weren't in control of the narrative anymore. They were inside it. And every word they had used against me was now documented evidence. I sat there watching them realize for the first time that every move they made had already been tracked and understood. The confidence they walked in with started to collapse in real time. My mother's expression changed first. Then my father looked at the folder again, slower this time. For the first time, they were not speaking. Rachel let the silence stretch. She didn't rush them. She let the evidence speak. And it spoke louder than any argument. I watched my sister finally stop smiling. She realized she had stepped into something she couldn't undo. My father tried to speak, but stopped halfway. Because there was nothing left to defend. Everything had already been documented. And understood. I finally spoke again, my voice steady and calm. I said this was never about revenge. It was about truth. And in that moment, I saw them not as powerful people, but as individuals who had lost control of the story they tried to write about me, while every document on that table confirmed it beyond denial. I walked out of Rachel's office feeling like I could finally breathe again. No shouting followed me. No more manipulation. Just silence behind me. My wedding never happened the way they planned, but I didn't lose anything that mattered. In fact, I gained something I had never had before, control over my own life. My parents faced investigations from multiple business partners. My sister stopped posting about my life completely. And the venue reinstated my booking under new terms, respectfully this time. But I chose not to return to that version of my wedding. Instead, I traveled alone for a while, rebuilding myself outside their shadow. For the first time, I wasn't the backup plan or the practical one. I was just Daniela, someone who finally chose herself. And as I looked ahead to the life I was finally building on my own terms, I understood that losing their approval had given me something far more valuable: peace, clarity, and the freedom to never again let anyone rewrite my story or decide what my future should be completely moving forward. If you've ever had people try to control your life using money, status, or pressure, you understand this kind of betrayal deeply. Share your story in the comments. What did they take from you? And how did you respond? Subscribe to join others who refuse to stay silent. Your experience matters more than you think. Click hype to help this story reach others who need to hear it today, please. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else. Thank you for being here and for listening. I hope this reminded you that being underestimated doesn't define your ending. It only defines the moment before your comeback. Keep going and build the life they never expected you to have today.